September 20th Board of Education meeting. It is now 6:32. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? Great. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So please join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 on tonight's agenda is public input number 1. If anybody is here from the public, you can raise your hand. We'll call you up to the lectern. You have to give your name. We'll have 3 minutes. If anyone is attending via Zoom, you can raise your hand and Mr. Fisher will unmute you and you can say 3 minutes after you state your name. We'll start with anyone from in person, if anyone is here for public input number 1. I see no one here in person. Mr. Fisher online? No. You hear no one, we will move on to tonight's agenda. And we'll go to item 5 on tonight's agenda, which is the superintendent's report, starting with 5.1. Mr. Nichols.
Thanks, Brian. So I want to just give a quick update on 2 issues. The first one is the COVID testing update. So for those of you who are not aware, New York State came out with some new guidance in the beginning of September, I believe September 2nd, basically stating that employees in school districts, faculty and staff, had to either provide proof of being fully vaccinated, which means that they've received 2 doses in 14 days beyond that, or they had to provide proof of a negative COVID test on a weekly basis. So some school districts decided to wait a week or so before implementing that. We did not. We started last Monday. And we're happy to report that as of today, which is the second Monday, everybody is in compliance. So out of roughly, we separate out the subs, which we're dealing with separately. Out of the 262 employees, there are 22 that are not vaccinated as of now. And those people have complied with the DOH guidance and are providing evidence of a negative test. Several of those individuals are in the process of being vaccinated, so that number should drop further. But if you do some rough math, we're in the 90 to 100% range of people being fully vaccinated. So that's the first update. Any questions with regard to that?
I have a question about COVID. So can I just talk about, so if a child tests positive for COVID, and they're quarantined for 10 days, what educational help are they getting while they're at? So let's say after 5 days they're feeling okay, so they start to quarantine for another 3 days of school. Are we doing any, is there any way those kids can click onto the class, or are the teachers reaching out? Like, do you have anything set up for them?
Well, I'll let the building principals
Okay.
speak to it in terms of specifically whether they can, visit the Google Classroom or something like that. But I should note that it is the fundamental difference between this year and last year is
Is that not
that the remote option is not available. What I will say is that the standard as the New York State is being followed, which is that if you are out of school sick for a period of time, whether it's COVID or another illness, at the middle school, high school level, you're actually at both levels, you're entitled to a mandatory or a minimum amount of instruction, and that takes place through the tutorial services. And obviously, if someone's sick or quarantined, you can't send a tutor to the library to meet with them, which is usually where it happens. Mr. Malone or Ms. Carriero, you guys want to chime in?
So for us at the middle high school level, we've started doing that, and it's a virtual check-in if the child feels okay, and or if it's just quarantined, and we think that seems to be working.
Okay.
Because it's also good at the middle high school level, because usually the teacher that teaches the class is the one doing that tutoring. So it's getting them caught up exactly in that classroom.
And similar, at the elementary school, the teachers have the Google Classroom well established, so families, students can check in on the assignments presented there. And then we use the Google Meet throughout the day, just keep the student connected to their peers and the teachers.
Excellent, excellent. I just want to make sure that that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions with regard to the testing update?
I just want to thank the staff for being so cooperative to help keep our schools open, students and staff healthy, and thank you to the posters. It's very good news.
Good. The second area I'd like to comment on is just a quick update on Massachusetts Park. For those of you who are not aware, the school district signed a one-year extension with the park for the current year, with the understanding that we would seek a longer-term agreement. And part of that process is representatives from the school district and the park board meeting to collectively decide upon capital improvements for the park, areas that we can agree on need to be improved. So we've had the first meeting, one of several scheduled. So I anticipate that we'll be meeting throughout the fall. And thus far, the meetings have been very productive, I think, and cooperative, and I expect they will be moving forward. And hopefully, we can update the public on a regular basis regarding our progress. So I thank the park board for working collaboratively with us, and we look forward to working with them moving forward.
Any board questions?
So I know that I think we have talked about that there would be meetings with yourself and the negotiating committee from the district, meeting with the negotiating committee from the park. But we also talked about periodically having public discussions that we would invite them to, so that we would have kind of more open transparency during the process. When do we anticipate that first public meeting?
I don't think we've decided on that meeting as of yet. The first meeting that we had focused on really laying out a tentative roadmap for the two sides to meet, but also to get a legal overview on some of the timeline issues related to filing for both the approval of the long-term lease, the capital project, bond council, those types of things. Hopefully, the next meeting, we can get into some of what you just referenced, which is possibly a broader public forum where we can get some additional feedback.
Do you anticipate that the timing of that first meeting could be in October or November?
Hopefully. I don't want to speak for the park board at this point, because we've committed to being on the same page with what we articulate, and I haven't touched base with them, or our side hasn't touched base with them on those meetings yet.
I'm just working backwards. If we're hoping to put this out for vote in the spring, that we would have to start relatively early, because it's not like a normal budget presentation. There's kind of more heavy lifting. All right, thank you so much.
Any other board questions from Mr. Nichols on that? Section 6 of tonight's agenda, the principal's report.
I want to start with Mr. Malone.
Either place, whatever, and probably we have to see up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I was asked to speak up, so you can hear me through the mask here. Very pleased to report that we had a positive opening. It was, last year presented many challenges. This year we are dealing with some challenges, but I think came back, all students, faculty, staff with a lot of great energy, a lot of enthusiasm. The first few weeks have gone very well. So I'm really grateful to all for the cooperation and the efforts. We are kind of into the full swing now, and schedule, routines, all of our safety procedures seem to be not only working, but going very smoothly. we received some good suggestions about taking even more advantage of the time and space that we're afforded outside. So I want to thank Mr. Reynoso because at the buildings, we've worked on some outdoor lunchtime. We didn't really leverage that as much last year, but this year we're alternating days where full grade levels are eating outside. We have the space, we have the tables. So that's an example of an added, smart measure that I think we've put in place, and that's gone over really well. We are hosting a virtual curriculum night this Thursday. Teachers throughout the building have put together links that have been shared with families, and the event will be in the evening, but done through Google Meets. It gives parents and families a great chance to learn about the curriculum, the happenings in the classroom, routines in the classroom, as well as connecting with teachers in other disciplines throughout the building. Our PTA is hosting their first meeting of the school year. That's actually tomorrow morning, following morning program, so roughly 9:15. It is going to be hosted on school grounds, actually in the outdoor classroom. Again, taking advantage of the outdoor space, so that's a good thing. And then we're looking ahead to Monday is picture day for all the classes and individual students. And we have a lot of other great things in the works, so I'll be happy in coming meetings to update the board on how all that's going.
Any board questions for Mr. Moore?
Good.
Good evening. So the middle high school has been busy. Just like Mr. Malone said, we're in a new normal this year. It's a lot easier that we've all lived it last year, but we're excited to have all the kids in person learning this year. Our sixth graders feel like they run the building already. They're happy to be moving around and they're excited that they only have 40-minute stints and not in the same classroom. They are the ones that are potted, but it hasn't been an issue as of yet, and they're doing really well. Our high school is busy at work this week because it's homecoming, as you can hear them in the hallways. So this year we did a little differently, and the good part about it is it evens the playing field, because historically, before COVID, the students would go to parents, like a host house, to work on the skits and the banners and practice for their lip sync battle. And this year it's an all-encompassing night. This Friday from 6 to 9, there'll be like a mini carnival outside, and then the classes will compete in mini challenges. There'll be a lip sync battle, and they're also working on a banner as well. And that starts today. And from Monday through Thursday, each class gets a designated time from 6 to 9. We've lightened the homework load so our kids can participate in rah-rah the school spirit. And then academic support on Friday is our annual pep rally. Just like we did with Whaler Day, that was a success last year. It's going to be outside again, and we're excited for that. And we've actually realized through COVID that outdoor events are actually really fun for the kids because it gives them time to also like run around and goof around, and relax and be children. The middle school, we've already started planning the Red Ribbon Week that's coming up in October. And then our virtual curriculum night will be next Wednesday, September 29th, and information will go out later tomorrow or early Wednesday with the links. And that is a time to just understand the syllabus of what each course is at the middle high school and to like get to meet the teachers. And then annually we'll have a parent-teacher conference at the end of November, right before Thanksgiving. But everyone seems to be doing well, and it's really just great to have the kids in the building.
Any board questions for Mr. Herrera? All right, thank you. Moving on to tonight's agenda, section 7 of tonight's agenda, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 7.2 through 7.30? Any discussion?
So let Mary know, for some reason I can't log into,
We'll just do a raise of
so
hands.
I'm gonna use my hands.
That's fine. No other discussion? Okay, we'll do the voting. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Great. No discussion items this evening. Public input number 2.
Hold on, we have in front of us the committee, the final list of everybody's committees. We can take a look at it. So we can finalize and get those letters out to
Right, the highlighted yellow.
The
are what
highlighted
the-
yellow,
what we said in the
Mary
letter.
has once again put this together for us to send it out to Tash and to our community, the student council, to get kids onto the committee. Community members and different teachers. So there is, once they take a look at it, make sure that your name is where it needs to be. And hopefully we're gonna close that in 10 days, and then the chairs really need to have a meeting beginning in October, please. Alex, when you're not here, we put you on like 7 committees.
A quick question. I remember differently, but I didn't go back to read the, to watch the meeting. Did we say we were definitely doing away with the communication?
Yes.
Yes.
We did, okay, yeah.
It's gonna be a presentation workshop to do that with the school board.
Okay, so if anyone
Okay.
doesn't have anything, then we're good, and
I do have one thing I just want to bring up, and it was referenced, I think, at our goal-setting meeting, which was the, we've had previous conversations about appointing hiring a communication specialist. I think it was not the right time. What?
That's what I just said, that we're gonna have a workshop coming up in October on communications and specialists with the.
So we'll cover that then, even though it was approved in the budget last year, so I think that was a good idea. We still have to workshop it before we.
Well, we have to workshop what the job description is and the person and.
Okay.
Is it civil service? Is it not? Is it in-house? Is it out-of-house?
Okay,
And then we cited it, but we haven't had in-depth conversation.
all right.
Unless I'm wrong.
Whoever that
actually,
position will
it's a
report
little
to,
more-
let's
it's a
have,
little- It's a little more nuanced than that, because you're supposed to get feedback from the survey.
Yeah.
But the survey went out, and we weren't really able to make that feedback.
okay.
so, Mary, if you would, send out those notifications to the interested parties and let them know they have 10 days to let us know if they're interested in filling any of those vacant positions.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Public input number 2, if you're here live or watching or attending over Zoom, you could raise your hand in the chat room on Zoom or raise your hand here. If you called upon, you will have 3 minutes after you give your name to address the board. Is there anybody here in person who would like to speak during public input number 2? See anybody here? Is there anybody online? Mr. Fisher? Anything from the board before I put a motion on the table?
The other thing I wanted to mention was that we have a resignation of a physical education teacher that has been in the district for many, many years. And I just want to thank him for his years of service. I'll speak as a parent for a second, but I had several of my children had him, and he was a very, very good teacher. And I'm sorry.
Absolutely. In a moment, I'm going to put a proposed motion before the board to go into executive session to discuss bargaining unit negotiations and the employment of a particular person. If that motion were to carry and the board does go into executive session, then the public meeting will end at the conclusion of the executive session. The board will take no action when it leaves executive session, so no voting or anything other than closing the meeting. So for the purpose of the public meeting, if that motion passes, that would be the end of the meeting. So with that said, is there a motion to convene into executive session to discuss collective bargaining unit negotiations and the employment of a particular person? Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0, Mary, at
Okay.
6:52.
Yep. 6:52.
Thank you very much for coming this evening, everybody. See you soon.